For our next presentation, I'm happy and honored to have Sam Biardo with us. Hi, Sam. How you doing?
Doing well.
Great. So Sam is the founder of Technology Advisors and Starfish ETL. So Technology Advisors is a digital transformation consulting firm that works closely with Creatio customers and a lot of other customers. But of course, today we're going to talk specifically around consumer banking organization and how to roll out a no-code platform for your consumer banking functions. So Sam, I'll be happy to give you a quick intro if you don't mind. And we were talking about that right before starting the session. So Sam created and started Technology Advisors back in 1991, where his goal was helping customers to improve sales, marketing, and customer service operations. Since then, Technology Advisors has grown tremendously in the digital transformation space into supporting customers in deploying low-code and no-code solutions. And so Sam has tremendous experience implementing dozens of CRM solutions, workflow process automation, just to name a few, and is working daily closely with customers, especially in a financial services organization. So Sam, I'll be happy to hand it over to you. I'll stay connected with you, and I'll take some questions at the end, and I hope we'll have the time to address them. If not, I'm sure we'll be able to provide some response directly.
Well, thank you. Yeah, in fact, we hit for our website, we counted last year, and we had over 1,100 implementations of CRM in our history as a company. So we sort of understand it. We're going to go to the next slide. Okay. If we can, hold on.
Sure, go on. I believe you will be able to showcase it.
Maybe I should share. Maybe that's the problem. Okay.
No problem.
So yeah, someone else is sharing right now. There we go. So this is what we're going to basically talk about. What are the most common uses we see banks and credit unions do? What major functions? A little bit drill down into them. And then I really want to talk about why people have projects that fail and how low code prevents that from happening, and how we prevent projects failing by reducing the level of risk associated with that project. And so the most common things, I just picked 10, but we see banks asking for is everyone wants a 360 view of the customer. And actually, this is not true for banks, it's true for everybody. Everyone wants a 360 view because no one likes to be blindsided no matter what their job is. And everyone wants the opportunity to help grow the company. So giving them a good picture of what's going on truly helps them turn your entire employee force into salespeople. The next two we see most common are issue management and complaint, or case management. I've separated them, and you'll see why later. The next three are all about selling, cross-sell, referrals, and offers. Loan is on its own, and typically we see that people want to know a lot of information about loans and credit limits. Then the next one is event management, and then the last two are sort of linked, service level agreements and document management. So let's look at the 360 view. The 360 view of the customer really deals with someone coming into their low-code platforms such as Creatio and pulling up a customer's name and understanding who's in their household, understanding, do they have a safe deposit box, what accounts they have, what loans do they have, do they have a line of credit? Do they have a debit card with us or a credit card with us? And that's really just a sort of snapshot view. And this is going to be used later, because if I'm in a cross-sell role, I can look at that customer view and say how many customers we have who have a checking account but don't have a debit card or don't have an ATM, and literally look at it from that perspective. So case management, I remember I told you I broke it up into two parts: complaints and issue management. The way I look at it is issue management is I have to have a resolution. Complaint management doesn't necessarily require a resolution. Complaint managers is things like, I had a bad experience, or you change the hours but didn't tell us about it. It's nothing. It requires maybe a letter or an email going to that person, but it doesn't necessarily require a resolution. It's more about documenting bad or unpleasant experiences. Frankly, uh, you could expand this and also document good experiences, but I find no one ever tells you they've had a good experience. It's always only about the bad experiences they have. Issue management is something that is actually wrong. It's not following our processes, not meeting our SLAs, and it requires a case. It requires the opening a case of some type, maybe routing it to the appropriate person in the organization so it can be fixed, and it requires feedback to the customer who opened the issue. My three selling ones are the cross sell, the referral, and the offer. Cross selling is, they have a car loan and you make a suggestion that maybe they could get a checking account with you so that they can have an auto pull out of the checking account for their car loan. And obviously, as we all know, the more instruments or accounts that they have or loans that they have with us, the stickier our customers become with us. So we really would, cross sell is something you want to do early on, particularly if they only have one thing. The second part is referral. They come in two forms. Someone calls up a help desk and says, hey, I want to get a loan. Who do I talk to? And it gets referred off to a particular loan officer or a branch. The other form, though, comes in the fact that you're mining data and you're saying this, we have a new customer who signed up and he's a CEO. And we did that by mining data. Let's hand him off to the commercial banking department and see if we can not only do business of his personal business, but maybe their business as well. The third one is offers. We get offers from banks all the time for a free credit card or credit card with low interest. And so, examples of that might be someone loses a credit card and now you offer them one with fraud protection that may cost more. So those are the three different types of sales functions we tend to see the most. For event management, this is, the person who's at the farmer's market or at a fundraiser, maybe a Rotary event. This really is about tracking the events, making sure the employees show up at the events, documenting the hours and the schedule, making sure a checklist that is for preparation is performed. That could be, making sure the space is adequate, getting the hours of when you can get there, providing the swag or whatever the event is. I know we don't do a lot of live events, but I'm very hopeful. And then what's it going to cost? What's our expectations from the event, and have we met those expectations? And then document management finally is really managing everything around creation of a document to linking that document to a particular account and to then point to a customer as well. Maybe tracking the signature, where is it in the process? Maybe you have an SLA on how quickly it has to get signed or when it auto terminates, and then managing the terms of that contract and associating that with that customer. So I like to talk about why projects succeed, not why they fail. And they succeed primarily because the management supports them. If you can't get your managers to support you, you're not going to ever have a successful project. I've never seen one succeed without management support. But with management support, then there's other things you need to do to have a successful project. And one of them is getting, first of all, the staff needs to see that what you're doing in the new system is going to make their life easier. If they're going to make their life harder, they are not going to use it, and you're going to lose on adoption. So whatever you implement, you have to not only have management support, but you have to make everyone's life a little simpler. You have to get the employees to provide input because they have to take ownership of this eventually. And by getting their input, you help them get ownership. And then one of the great things about products like Creatio, low code, no code tools, is that we can actually do experimentation. We can create a trial process. We can create a prototype of something we'd like to see pretty rapidly. And then we can demonstrate it to internal people to see if they feel it actually improves their experience with the CRM. And this is something you can't do with a traditional CRM, because the traditional CRM means I'm getting requirements, I'm sending it off to IT, they're going to put it in a schedule, we might see it in 3 quarters. So this is the great part about the low code side. And then my advice to everyone is train, 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 and train. Uh, there's no such thing as not enough training. And I point this out because we frequently see training as one of the cost cutters that people make. And I always look at it as that your sales team is typically one of the highest paid of your organization. And if your sales team is the highest paid and you're not going to train them, how can they be successful? Right? So never cut training. In fact, because that's all it's going to do is going to make them use the system more, which is going to make them more successful, which is going to make you more successful. And then don't rush into the next phase. Get feedback. So I always like telling customers to wait a couple months between phase 1 and phase 2. And after about 30 days, get some feedback and ensure you incorporate that feedback. That may be changing a process. That might be moving a screen around because it's easier for them to do data entry or to look at information, but get their feedback and add that into your continuous improvement process. So less is more. And this is really the success. And there's some great math behind it. And being the nerd that I am, in fact, right now I'm actually reading a book about mathematics for fun. Think about that for a second. We're going to talk about the mathematics side of why less is more, because you don't want to take my word for it. You want to see it expressed as a formula like I do. So math is more because it's all about this. This is risk. And I don't know if anyone knows this, it's not probably something common knowledge, but being a math geek, I do. Actually, this is the core of probability theory. Probability theory was created by the French in the 1640s, and they did it so they could better understand sports betting. So that is an actually true story. So they invented an entire part of a discipline of mathematics. And basically what prop risk is about is that if I have risk and I have 5 or 6 things that are all risky, to get the overall risk, you multiply those together. And by risk, I mean on time and on budget. If it's not on time or it's not on budget, then you have a failure. So success gets really sort of strange. So if I have 100 use cases I'm trying to roll out, whoops, maybe that 100 use cases, look at the probability curve happen as the use cases get applied. You have basically a 37% chance of this project succeeding if everything you're doing has a 99% chance of success. So that really should enlighten you on how this formula works. And so one of the advantages of implementing out-of-box features and one of the advantages of producing low code is that you can get you never can get 100%, right? But you might be able to get 3 9s in risk. Okay. And so what I did is I redid these graphs and said, well, let's assume that we're going to increase our success rate by 0.5%. Well, what happens is that that 30% now goes to around 60%. So you've actually improved it by 1/3 just by bumping this up by 0.5%. And that's just critical when you're thinking about breaking it up. Now, if everyone remembers the old coin flip thing, right? If I'm going to flip 5 coins, right, my chances are 2 to the 5th that I'm going to get all 5 of his heads. But as I if I got the first one heads, the next chance is 2 to the fourth, the next chance is 2 to the third, and then it's half, right? So the probabilities reset when the outcome is known. And if you think about how phasing projects go, if you break these down instead of 100 use cases into 5 phases of 20 use cases, notice the probability never goes below 90%, and they reset themselves when they go to the next phase. So this is why I say less is more. It's the math side of it, which is you really want to keep things in small groups. And when we talk about the math side, I do risk analysis a lot on bigger projects. And what I find is that, and we have some formulas like, if it's a feature already in the box and you're configuring it, we consider that, 99.9% because we already know the vendors vetted it. We know that if it's a small customization, it's probably 99%. But when you look at things like integrations, where those come in around 90%, I see customers trying to do 5 integrations, at one time plus a bunch of use cases, and you look at that and you say they got maybe a 20% chance of getting this on time and on budget. And so when you sit back and think about deploying things like the 360 view of the customer, a loan management program, cross-selling or sales, you got to think about can you put those together to minimize your risk so that you can have a successful phase. Because we all know if the first phase isn't successful, it puts a lot of pressure on the project afterwards. So that is my simple presentation for banking and how I would deploy. And I think I left myself enough time for questions.
Well, I would love to have asked a question or two. The good news is you're already starting answering one of them, which was, how you maximize adoption. And you did said experiment, train, have, sponsorship from the management. Unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap up for this session, but I'm happy to see you soon, Sam, and we'll have a live conversation with, more in depth. And I also, as you were sharing, I also wanted to share more insights, especially on your math formulas. But it was, I think, a very original angle to see that there's the technology itself, but there's also the organization, the resource that you put yourself to maximizing success. So thanks a lot for sharing that, Sam.
You're welcome.